NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4 was from the Barclays Center just last night. And unfortunately, not only is all those superstars on Raw and SmackDown not immune to dumb babyface syndrome, but neither is Johnny Wrestling. He let his emotions get the better of him at the end of the main event, and he paid the price for it. Tommaso Ciampa, still NXT champion after another excellent TakeOver show. I think it would be news if one of these TakeOver shows was not an excellent show. That would be the big story. All of these Brooklyn TakeOvers have been outstanding. It's just too bad they will not be doing another one next summer, since they're already going to be doing one in April. And now I hear rumors, nothing confirmed, but rumors that Toronto may be the favorite for SummerSlam. And I guess if they get SummerSlam, they would probably get NXT TakeOver next August. So I suspect that they'll be making an announcement one way or the other very soon, but Toronto is the latest rumor I'm hearing. I did go to the show. For those of you wondering if I made it or not, I did go. Fourth row ringside. Not a bad view. We had Stephanie McMahon with her kids. I think they were sitting a couple of rows in front of us. She was there the entire show. And 2 hour left was former WCW World Heavyweight Champion himself, David Arquette, taking in the action. Ronda Rousey and her husband, UFC fighter Travis Brown, were brought out after the very first match. They sat in the same row with Arquette. And she was marking out the entire time. Every time I looked over and I saw Ronda, she was just cheering and chanting or booing. If it was the Kairi Sane match, she was booing Kairi. Just having so much fun out there. It was actually nice to see. There were two matches that were taped for NXT television this week. I missed the Bianca Belair-Deonna Purrazzo match, and I got there in time to see the last half of the United Kingdom Championship match with Pete Dunne defending against Zach Gibson. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, other than to say that what I saw of the Dunne-Gibson match was very good. The show itself opened with Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven challenging the Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team titles. No surprise here. Strong and O'Reilly retain. They just won the belts back. No real need to switch them again. This time it was Tyler Bate's knee that got worked over for a dramatic effect, not Trent Seven's, which we saw a few weeks ago on NXT television. Although Trent Seven did grab a white towel, he teased doing for him what Bate did for Seven a few weeks ago by throwing the towel in. Everyone's chanting, no, don't do it. And he tossed the towel into the stands instead. He got a hot tag. They hit their finish on Kyle O'Reilly, but he kicked out. Bate was taken out by Strong, which left Seven all by his lonesome. He fell victim to total elimination and was pinned. Undisputed Era retains. These two teams can just do no wrong together. I mean, there was a period of time on the main roster where I felt the same way about New Day and Usos. They had tons and tons of matches, and one was better than the next until they built to that great Hell in a Cell match that they had. And these two teams, look, I mean, some teams just have great chemistry. These two teams have it. And I could watch these guys all day long. One of the best series of matches of any kind, I think, all year. And the War Raiders came out through the crowd at the end. They left Strong and O'Reilly laying to set up their next program. EC3 and the Velveteen Dream. Dream came out with the words, "Call me up, Vince," on the back of his ass. You shut your damn mouth with that nonsense, you hear me? I don't want to be hearing none of that. On the post-show conference call, Triple H said the first time he saw Dream's tights was when he showed it to the hard camera. So he didn't see it backstage. When he flashed it on TV is when he saw it. And on the call, he said, maybe I should see stuff like that ahead of time. He goes, there are calls from Vince that you want to get, and there are calls from Vince that you don't want to get. And that is why we cannot have nice things. I thought it was great. So, first half of the match really wasn't anything special, to be honest. Dream, he gave EC3 a DDT on the ramp. Things started to really pick up after that point. He was working over the neck of EC3. EC3 hit a superplex on Dream later on and sold his neck. Somewhere in here, I'm not sure where, EC3 got a cut over his eye. Because after the match, the eye was very badly swollen. Dream gave him a Death Valley driver on the apron, which, of course, say it with me, is the hardest part of the ring. You know, I was thinking about this. Wouldn't the hardest part of the ring technically be the ring post? Right? Would seem logical to me if we're going to be real technical about it. But this is the second hardest part of the ring. After that, Dream went up top. EC3 is still laying on the apron, mind you. He goes up to the top rope and delivers the purple Rainmaker elbow drop to EC3 on the apron. Rolls him back inside and gets the pin. This was the weakest match on the show, but it was still good. It was still good, but of the 5, I would put this one at the bottom of the pile. The most important thing about this is that the right man won. Dream was super over in Brooklyn. I mean, the guy's a superstar. He comes out, he gets superstar reaction. He's still very young. He'll get better, but he is, I say a star in the making. I mean, he's already a star to these people. But he's going to do big things. He is well on his way. And he needed this win. He really did. Of the 2, he needed this more than EC3 did, so the right man won. They showed their newest signee. They did make it official on WWE.com. Matt Riddle has officially signed with the NXT brand. They showed him on camera sitting in the crowd. He tried to get a bro chant going, and it worked. There was a loud bro chant in the building. They've got a license to print money. I mean, you talk about a star in the making with somebody like Velveteen Dream. They've got a license to print money with this guy if they play their cards right. Will they? I trust in NXT he'll do very well. I think he will on the main roster too. I just feel like he's too charismatic. From what I've seen of him, he's too charismatic and too good not to be a big star. I guess, you got to worry about the company, but you got to worry about the individual as well. As long as he stays on the straight and narrow and does what he's supposed to do, I think he'll do very well for himself. Adam Cole and Ricochet for the NXT North American Championship. I am sure many of you noticed the little nod to Ricochet on Lucha Underground this past week. They had a priest named Father Rick O'Shea in the audience. They had him get his arm snapped. Pentagon actually snapped the arm of a priest. Neck collar and all. And people cheered. These people are sick. But I liked it. This was the match of the night right here. This stole the show. This is my favorite match of the entire show. Just an outstanding battle. Especially those last 7 or 8 minutes or so. I mean, and I could tell you in the building, people were losing their shit for this match. One of the all-time great spots, right? People talk about that time Shelton Benjamin springboarded off the ropes and Shawn Michaels caught him flush, boom, right in the face with sweet chin music. I don't know that this was better than that. I mean, I don't think Shawn could have nailed that kick any more perfectly than he did, but this was up there with a spot like that. And if this thing doesn't make the highlight reel, then they're doing something wrong. Ricochet, I thought he was setting up for a lethal injection, but instead he hits the ropes. He goes for a moonsault off the second rope. Okay, it's like he got some height on this. It's like a lion salt on steroids here. He gets way up into the air, and on his way down, Adam Cole hit a perfectly timed super kick right to Ricochet's neck on the way down. It looked like the face, but then they showed the replay, and he landed the foot right in the neck. He looked like he murdered this poor bastard. And afterward, you could see the giant red welt that it left on Ricochet's neck. They replayed this thing 3 or 4 times. It looked even better in slow-mo. Everybody lost their minds. Michael Cole immediately transitioned into a brainbuster. Michael Cole. Oh, my God. Adam Cole. This was definitely not a move that Michael Cole, I think, could hit. Adam Cole, God, I'm worried about that too, because we kind of joked about that when Adam Cole eventually hits the main roster, we hope that they don't make him the, like the long-lost son of Michael Cole or something, and here I am, I'm calling him Michael Cole. What do you think Vince is going to do? But no, Adam Cole then immediately followed up with a brainbuster onto the knee, got a close near fall. Everybody thought that was the finish. They had me fooled, and I had picked Ricochet to win. So even still, they had me fooled on that near fall. After that, they traded some stiff kicks and chops back and forth until both guys fell down. The crowd gave them a standing ovation. Ricochet hit a reverse Rana, spiked Cole head first into the mat. He climbed up top for the 630. Cole wisely rolls out to the apron, but that doesn't stop Ricochet. I think he could have rolled out to the middle of the aisleway, and Ricochet would have found his way over in one giant leap. So Ricochet, he sort of surveys the situation here, and he proceeds to leap over the ropes, and in one motion, he hits a Rana on Cole, off the apron, and onto the floor. and he immediately rolls him back inside. He hits a picture-perfect 630 for the win. And with that, we have a new North American champion. Ricochet gets his first taste of gold in WWE. I cannot say enough good things about this match. These guys are two of the very best in this entire promotion. I saw something in the Facebook group. I guess somebody wasn't impressed by Adam Cole. They said, I don't see what's so impressive about this guy. He's very bland. He's very basic. Well, watch this match. Okay, Ricochet is obviously, he could do things that nobody else can. You don't have a match like this just because one of the two parties is good at what they do. So I don't want to hear this nonsense about how Adam Cole is overrated or his talent isn't what people make it out to be. You're full of shit. And this match is a great example of that. Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship. They brought out the remaining MMA horsewomen to join Ronda at ringside for this match. Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke, who have been training for months, and apparently they're picking this wrestling thing up pretty quick. This was an excellent match. This was the best women's match in NXT in a very long time. I'd have to go back and see when the last truly great women's match was, but I feel like it's been a while. There have been some good matches on TV. There was one actually recently, I think, with Candice LeRae and Shayna, but the last really excellent, really great one was a while ago, and this was the latest one here. These two came into this match tied at 1 win apiece. Kairi beat Baszler in the finals last year, the very first Mae Young Classic. Baszler beat Sane with the choke on NXT television back in February. And the story here was simple. Kairi came in as the underdog. Baszler has been the dominant bully champion. She tortured Kairi during this match. She was twisting and contorting her leg and her ankle in ways that it should never be twisted. I did love the way that Baszler mocked Kairi at one point. She did the little pirate march out of the corner. I laughed. I thought that was funny. Kairi started firing up with each shot, like she was hulking up, and she fought back. She showed off, I guess, her fighting spirit, you might say. She gave Shayna a spinning back fist that knocked her into the middle of next week. That reminded me of one of those old Aja Kong spinning back fists, although Aja had more on it than Kairi did. Kairi's a lot smaller than Aja Kong was. But she gave her an insane elbow drop from the top to Baszler's back. I think it was the top of the middle rope, but she hit the elbow on Shayna's back. And then she delivered a second insane elbow drop, but Shayna kicked out. I believe that makes her the first person ever to do so. I could be wrong, but she's the first one I can remember to kick out of that move. Kairi went to put the anchor submission on her, but Baszler countered that into a rear naked choke. You figured at this point, I figured it was academic at this point, but Kairi made it to the ropes. She ended up going up for a third insane elbow, but when she came off, and by the way, I'm watching her going up for the third time for this elbow, and I'm just thinking, boy, she's doing an awfully good job of speeding up that hip replacement. But on her way down, Baszler got her feet up. She kicked Kairi's arm on the way down. She grabbed her from behind to take her down for the choke. Kairi rolled through when she got pulled backwards, though. So this was right out of the Bret Hart-Roddy Piper playbook from WrestleMania 8 or the Bret Hart-Steve Austin match from Survivor Series in 1996. Baszler's shoulders were down, and Kairi wins the championship. And as Shayna said when the match was over, she was backstage with the other horsewomen being interviewed by Kathy Kelly, and she said, look, Kairi Sane didn't beat me. I lost. But she didn't beat me. So I guess that'll be the story coming out of this match. This was the one outcome I got wrong when I did the predictions. I thought Baszler would retain. I thought she should retain. I like the job they've done with her as champion, but my guess is they did it this way because she's going to get called up to the Raw roster soon, and possibly even as early as tomorrow. If she's going to get called up, it has to be the Raw roster, obviously, because that's where Ronda Rousey is. So whether they're going to wrestle or partner, it would have to be the Raw roster if she's going to get called up. And look, maybe they're setting it up for horsewomen against horsewomen at the Evolution pay-per-view. Maybe that's why they went with Trish against Alexa instead of Trish against Sasha Banks. Either way, I think Baszler's probably the next one getting called up. I would have expected Aleister Black. I mean, I said that about a month and a half ago, that I figured he was going to get called up the night after SummerSlam. He would not win the championship back, and then he would get called up. But then he got hurt. Main event was Tommaso Ciampa defending his NXT Championship against Johnny Gargano in a last man standing match for the title. Both these guys, much like Baszler and Kairi Sane, came into this match tied at 1 win apiece. Gargano won their first encounter. That was after Ciampa came back from knee surgery. And Ciampa won the rematch. That was at the Chicago show. This was supposed to be a triple threat match with Aleister Black, but Rikishi ran him over, and so we were left with another singles match here between these two guys. In my opinion, Johnny Gargano has been the MVP of NXT in 2018. He has now headlined every TakeOver show this year, and has had, in my opinion, the best match in NXT history with Andrade Cien Almas, and that was to start the year. Then came those two great matches with Ciampa, and you can add a third now to the list. This was also an excellent match, although probably my least favorite of the three that they've had so far. And I think that's largely because this was the third straight match with virtually the same rules. The matches really, stipulation-wise, have not been that different. This time they added in the little wrinkle, obviously, of the last man standing stip. But all three matches have basically been no DQ, anything goes weapons matches. You can only do that so often before you start to run out of ideas. Now, they did have some, a couple of innovative things here that I hadn't seen them do before, but, pulling up the mats, we've seen them do that before, going through tables and using this and that. I mean, we've seen a lot of this already. But that didn't make the match any less good than it was. They had Ciampa come out. He has the best entrance music in all of wrestling. The sounds of hatred and contempt, which any great heel would die for. He basically stole Roman Reigns' entrance music from him. And Johnny Gargano comes out. He comes out to a largely positive reaction, although more mixed than he's had before. Through this whole story with Ciampa, it's changed Gargano, right? That's the story here. He has not been the same since that loss to Ciampa in Chicago. And then he gave Ciampa the accidental assist in winning the NXT title. And that threw him off the deep end even more and did not ingratiate him very well with many of the fans. They chanted, "You deserve it" at him after Aleister Black kicked him in the face a few weeks ago. So Johnny is a flawed character on this show. He's like Rick on The Walking Dead if NXT was a drama and went about 3 seasons too long. Johnny pulled up some of the mats on the outside. Fans chanted, "EC Dub, EC Dub," more like EC Dumb to me. Of all the things to associate with ECW, really? Pulling up mats on the floor? Come on. They brawled over to one of the announce desks. Ciampa had a running air raid crash on Gargano through the Spanish announce table. It's always the Spanish announce tables. Always, right? How long before people get offended by that? And the company is forced to apologize to all of their Spanish-speaking fans and make the promise that they will never again damage the table because it's very unfair that it's always their desk and hardly ever the other ones that get broken. I'm sure people will find something to be upset about. Gargano lawn darted Ciampa into a chair that was wedged in between two turnbuckles, the top and the middle turnbuckles, and I looked over at Stephanie. She did not seem to like that very much. And she liked it even less when Ciampa hit the Devil's Wings on the steps. That came a little bit later. But Gargano set up 2 tables outside the ring, one face up, the other face down. On top of that one, with the table legs sticking up, Ciampa was punishing him with chair shots. And then he opens the chair and he takes a seat as the referee starts to count. Johnny beats the count just in time and then super kicks Ciampa out of his seat, so that was cool. I mentioned the Devil's Wings. He hit the Devil's Wings, which is his finish. That's the move he used to win the NXT title. He hit that on Gargano on the steel ring steps. Somehow, Gargano beat the count at the very last second. And so Ciampa starts removing some of the padding from inside the ring. It's a kind of a callback to their street fight in Chicago. They're exposing the wooden boards underneath. And Gargano blasted Ciampa in the face with a fire extinguisher, blinding him. He grabbed a crutch. He broke it over his back, draping DDT by Gargano onto the wood boards. The same move Ciampa used to beat him once before. Ciampa rolled out of the ring, and when he landed on his feet, that constituted a break in the count, which was smart. And remember that because that's going to play into things a little bit later here. Gargano hit not one but two separate suicide dives. Two suicide dives to Ciampa on the opposite sides of the ring. Accidentally, Johnny Gargano then accidentally super kicks a member of the production crew. And that reminded me of the Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12. Was it Chimmel? I think it was Chimmel that Shawn super kicked by accident. Pretty sure it was Tony Chimmel. But anyway, Ciampa hit a running knee strike that collapsed the boards by the timekeeper's area. And in a funny spot, Ciampa grabs the dead body of the production guy. He places him on top of Gargano and proceeds to bury Johnny in a mountain of debris. He's throwing chairs over, just whatever he could get his hands on, anything to keep this guy down for the 10 count. But still, he made it to his feet. Ciampa grabbed a pair of handcuffs. Gargano wrestled them away from him and put the cuffs on one of Ciampa's wrists. He super kicked him off the apron. Remember those two stacked tables I mentioned? Well, he went right through them and made it back to his feet, though, in time. They took the fight up the ramp and onto the stage. And Johnny handcuffs him to a part of the stage, and he delivers a series of super kicks. And you know, each time Ciampa is begging off, and he's apologizing, and Johnny is just kicking him each time for it. And Johnny is wasting so much time here. Each time he would kick him, he would stand there, he would stare at him, he would talk to him, and he was just wasting so much time. And everybody in my section is like, come on, do something, end this, come on, finish him off. And he just was not in his right frame of mind. Johnny Gargano was not in his right frame of mind. He is obsessed with hurting Tommaso Ciampa more than he is winning the match. He pulls down his knee pad. He delivers a running knee strike and hits Ciampa. But in doing so, not only does he hit Ciampa, but Johnny himself goes flying off the stage. He couldn't stop his momentum. And he goes flying off the stage and over a bunch of production boxes, and he lands on the floor. Both guys are down. The referee starts counting. Both men are being counted out here. Johnny tries to get to his feet, but he can't. He hurt his knee. He falls to the ground. Ciampa, who is still cuffed to the stage, but he was kind of on the edge, he rolls off the stage and lands on his feet. Because remember now, the stage is only raised, like, compared to the way it used to be back in the day, like on Raw, they had the tall stage. It's 2-3 feet now, maybe. Ciampa rolls off at the count of 9 and lands on his feet. The floor broke his fall. But because he landed on his feet, that meant that he made it to his feet in time and Johnny Gargano did not. And therefore, Tommaso Ciampa retains his NXT championship. The virus has spread to NXT. Dumb babyface syndrome strikes again. Of all the things this man could have done, he had his opponent handcuffed. And he had to deliver a running knee and send himself flying to his doom. Johnny Wrestling becomes Johnny Dumbass here at NXT Takeover. And he paid the price for it. I could tell you that the crowd absolutely hated this finish. I was underwhelmed by it, but I get that it advances the story. And sometimes you have to do that to have this kind of a finish. I know it's frustrating. But so I get it, but it definitely took the air out of our sails in the building. But I'll say this, I would rather they do what they did here and have a winner, as opposed to what I was fearing they might do, which is a last man standing match where both guys knock each other out and neither guy can make it to their feet and it ends in a draw with no winner. I think that would have been a far worse finish. Mauro Ranallo on commentary, apparently, I haven't had the chance to go watch all this back on the TV version. But from what I understand on commentary, he was making reference to the fact that Johnny may have dislocated his knee or his kneecap. Triple H talked about that after the show. He did a post-show conference call, and he talked about it as though it was a legitimate injury. He said there were only 2 injuries coming out of the show. EC3 got dinged up, which is his eye, and he mentioned Johnny might have hurt his knee, and he said that it actually changed some of their technical plans for the finish of the show. So his injury sounds like it may be legit, and it may have actually impacted how the finish went down. Maybe that was why it felt like he was almost stalling a little bit. I don't know, but it sounds like he may be hurt. Hopefully it's nothing too serious that keeps him out for a long time. But here's what I would do with these 2 guys, because you say to yourself, okay, now what? Right? Ciampa won. So where does Gargano go from here? I would keep these 2 apart for the next 6 months. If we assume that neither guy is being called up anytime soon, I would keep them apart for 6 months. And if Johnny is legitimately injured, he may be out for a while anyway, which makes it easier. Ciampa can defend in the meantime against Aleister Black. It doesn't sound like Aleister is going to be gone very long. Triple H on the call said that it's the doctor's call. Whenever he thinks Black is ready, he'll be back. So it doesn't sound like he's going to be gone for very long. They can build to Gargano finally winning the NXT Championship from Tommaso Ciampa in Brooklyn next year, WrestleMania weekend. They come back to this feud. They have that one final blow-off match in Brooklyn, and it could be the first ever NXT Hell in a Cell match. But you think about all the matches these guys have had so far. It always spills out of the ring. They brawl all over the ringside area. They go into the crowd. They go up the aisle. They're on the stage. Hell in a Cell, right? It's a brutal match concept, but in the context of their own feud, because they're always, brawling everywhere all over the building, this keeps them contained inside. Although, Hell in a Cell rarely does Hell in a Cell actually keep people inside, but that would be the idea. Instead of just doing a cage match, you do a Hell in a Cell, which they've never done before. And that was the idea that was the idea I pitched for them in the Chicago show. That was the idea that I had for their Chicago match before they made it a street fight. I thought they could do the first ever Hell in a Cell. Well, they could save it for WrestleMania weekend. But I think that's how that story plays out to its conclusion. The story should end with the hero, Johnny Gargano, winning back his fans. You let some time go by. He comes back. He finally wins the big one. But I do think they need to put some daylight between these two for a while before revisiting it.